Hello everybody, it's Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back to Book Reviews. Okay, so this week, and this is very fun, this is very close to my heart. We have the 2003 winner, so we did back-to-back. 2002 was American Gods. And 2003 was Robert J. Sawyer's Hominids. The first book in the trilogy known as the Neanderthal Parallax. Yeah. So let's see where we get our description, our plot description. Hominids examines two unique species of people. We are one of those species. The other is the Neanderthals, of a parallel world where they become the dominant intelligence. Neanderthal civilization has reached heights of culture and science comparable to our own, but with radically different history, society, and philosophy. Ponter Bodett, a Neanderthal physicist, accidentally pierces the barrier between worlds and is transferred to our universe. Almost immediately recognized as a Neanderthal, but only much later as a scientist, he is quarantined and studied. Alone and bewildered, a stranger in a strange land. That's actually the title of our next review. But Ponter is also befriended by a doctor and a physicist who share his questing intelligence, and especially by Canadian geneticist Mary Vaughan, a woman with whom he develops a strong rapport. Ponter's partner, Adicor Huld, finds himself with a messy lab, a missing body, suspicious people all around, and an explosive murder trial. How can he possibly prove his innocence when he has no idea what actually happened to Ponter? Okay, parallel universe. In our universe, Neanderthals died out, humanity survives. In their universe, humans die out, in our universe, Neanderthals die out, humans survive. In their universe, humans die out, Neanderthals survive. And the Neanderthals make a hunter-gathering based society that's more technically advanced than our own. And they're working on quantum computing. When this accident happens that just takes one of their physicists and throws him into our world, into a neutrino detector. Like giant vat of water. So, first off, I love this because of my degree in anthropology. Second, I love this because of my degree in anthropology. Third, I love it because of my degree in anthropology. So let's just read a bit from the beginning. Not from the beginning, from kind of the discussion of this guy being a Neanderthal. And if you pronounce it Neanderthal, I'm just going with what my degree in anthropology kind of beat into me. But until I went to college, I pronounced it Neanderthal as well. So, and then I just listened to grad students call it Neanderthal enough at peer pressure. Just like, so, I mean, you can look it up, I guess. I don't really, I just did what wouldn't get me stared at in the anthro lab. Not that we talked about Neanderthals a lot. Ruben Montenegro looked agape at the casualty officer, Dr. Singh. What do you mean? He appears to be Neanderthal. The skull features are absolutely diagnostic, said Singh. What do you mean he appears to be a Neanderthal? The skull features are absolutely diagnostic, said Singh. Believe me, I've got a degree in craniology. But how could that be, Dr. Singh? Neanderthals have been extinct for millions of years. Actually, only for 27,000 years or so, said Singh. If you accept the validity of some recent finds, if those finds prove spurious, then they died out 35,000 years ago. But then how? Well, that I do not know. Singh waved his hand at the x-rays clipped to an illuminated panel. But the suite of characteristics visible here is unmistakable. One or two might happen in any given modern Homo sapiens skull, but all of them, never. What characteristics? Asked Ruben. The brow ridge, obviously. Note that it is unlike other primate brow ridges. It is doubly arched and has a sulcus behind it. The way the face is drawn forward, the prognosticism. Just look at that jaw jut out, the lack of a chin, the retromolar gap. He pointed to the space behind the last tooth. And see those triangular projections in the nasal cavity? Those are found in no other mammal, let alone any other primate. He tapped the image of the skull's rear. And see this rounded projection at the back? That is called the occipital bun. Again, it's distinctly Neanderthal. You're pulling my leg, said Reuben. That is something I would never do. Reuben looked back at the stranger, who had gotten up out of the wheelchair and was now staring with astonishment at a couple of skull x-rays on the other side of the room. Reuben then looked again at the x-ray film in front of him. Both he and Singh had been out of the room when the technician had taken the pictures. It was possible that for whatever reason someone had substituted different shots, although these were real x-rays, and they were x-rays of a living head, not a fossil. Nasal cartilage in the outline of flesh was clearly visible. Still, there was something very strange about the lower jaw. Parts of it showed as a much lighter shade of gray in the x-ray, as if they were made of a less dense material, and those parts were smooth, featureless, as though the material was uniform in composition. It's a fake, said Reuben, pointing to the anomalous part of the jaw. I mean, he's a fake. He had plastic surgery to make himself look Neanderthal. Singh squinted at the x-ray. There is reconstructive work here, yes, but only in the mandible. The cranial features all seem to be natural. Reuben glanced at the injured man, who was still looking at other skull x-rays while babbling to himself. The doctor tried to imagine the stranger's skull beneath his skin. Would it have looked like the one Singh was now showing him? Okay, so here's the thing. So those things are all true. Those are the definitional traits of Neanderthal skull morphology. And I know this because physical anthropology in the human skeleton meant I had to spend a bunch of lab time identifying skull casts. Which, here's the thing that I really love about this, because it's a fun fact if you don't know anything about hominid morphology. I took off my glove. What was I thinking? The dominant where's the gloves? So now, but put in the comments why the gloves, and I'll answer. The idea for the gloves is that there's something distracting about my hands, and I don't want it to be distracting. Don't back up the video and look at my hand. You won't see it that quickly. But I spend a lot of time with my hands in shot, like this, and I just don't want you to be like, whoa, what's the deal with your hands? So what's the deal with your gloves is the question I get asked instead. So the diagnostic, the absolute diagnostic trait for the human skull is the chin, right? We're the only hominid that has ever had a chin. And we also have no brow ridge, which is a big deal. Although I'm really rusty on this, that may be true of earlier kind of hominid forebears, that they have less prominent brow ridges than Neanderthals. Things like Homo habilis and stuff. I'm not sure. And I'm way out, 10 years, 12 years out of date for kind of the stuff I was studying. So, and the hominid descent tree, adds stuff all the time. I mean, it's a living science, right? But if you pick up a skull and it has a chin, it's a human skull. It has to be a human skull because it has a chin. There are other things you can do with that. I mean, you just get really, eventually you just get really good at being that's Australopithecus boisei, stuff like that. Australopithecus robustus. But that's the thing, is you just it's easy. It's an easy A when you pick that up in the lab and you go, there's the chin, human. Done. So that stuff's fun. It's fun that they talk about things like the size of the head. You can go on the internet and look at a side-by-side comparison of the size of a Neanderthal skull versus a human skull. Now you could have done as fun a thing with Homo floresiensis, which is island dwarfism hominid, so that they would all be tiny. But and so it deals with that. It deals with the idea of kind of all the things that we believe about Neanderthals. And this probably came out around the time where it was becoming either had been done or was becoming obvious that they were going to sequence the DNA. of Neanderthals, which we've done. So there's a lot of very insightful use of, or a very great use of kind of insights about the difference between us and, you know, our kind of hominid cousins from Europe. But one of the things that's really kind of fun about this is taking that into like kind of flesh and blood. Like once Ruben starts learning our language, the book argues that he can't make the E sound because of the, you know, because of how big kind of his mouth and nasal passage are. And he thinks we have to breathe through our mouth a lot because our noses are so small. Yeah, and like so, and for the same reason, you know, we believe that, you know, Neanderthals were adapted to cold climates, and which is why that they never really kind of left a shortened area or a smaller area, and whereas we were, you know, clothing allowed us to adapt to that climate, not vice versa, that we outcompeted them, or that we murdered them. I mean, however you kind of, I guess, want to look at it. You know, the opposite is true for them. They just, you know, humans never got out of warm climates, and we were ill adapted to anything else, and there's just some leap that got us into the cold and out of the warm that never happens in their reality. And so we die out and they do not. Whereas in our reality, most likely we killed them. And he finds this out at some point. So this is the first book of a trilogy because the ending of this book, you know, the book is open-ended. So you want to continue the stories of the characters. Now, here's a thing that I didn't talk about because I was excited about the premise and I really liked the idea of this book because I thought it was going to be set in the past about Neanderthals, and it's not. It's set in our present day about a Neanderthal civilization where they never went extinct and developed technology in advance of ours and formed like a matrilineal society or something. It's crazy. There's two more books. The next one is called Humans, and then the one after that is called Hybrids. So you can kind of imagine where this is going. But what I want to say is I like this book, but one of the things I have to say is one of the things I talk about a lot in science fiction is violent sexual assault. And the geneticist Mary Vaughn is raped at knife point 30 pages into this book. Now, that being said, I mean, it's used in a useful way to color her experiences as a person, and especially meeting this very strange, overpowering man suddenly and having to deal with him, and then you know how she feels kind of romantically about other beings, and versus, you know, this thing that has happened to her. I'm not going to say it was a useless or a pointless thing, or it was a thing that was thrown in there like sometimes it is, where you just go, I don't understand why we did this. But it's just weird it's coming up again. It is. It's just strange. It's just a strange thing to have. I mean, again, it's in the range of human experience, but yeah, so that's a thing that happens. And it happens very briefly. I mean, it's treated as if it needs to be a plot point, but the author doesn't like to dwell on it. Like, where he's just like, this thing happened, and then he deals with her thoughts about it, and the way she feels, and the things that she does afterwards. And I mean, I don't know, I'm not a survivor of violent sexual assault. But in ways that I believe somebody might act, and feel and think, and, you know, I mean, I didn't find it intrusive like I often do. I found it to be, you know, a thing that I kind of felt bad was part of the plot because it happened to a character that I liked. Like, I grew to like this character and was like, oh, why did that have to happen to her? And the answer is because it just happened, right? It had to happen because some guy's a rapist. Like, but it does, it's in here, and like, it just adds one more to the pile where I can be like, look, here's rape as a plot line in science fiction. Now, do I want to trash talk the book because of that? I actually don't. Because I think, like Sci-Team, it's used in a way that is kind of part of responsible character development for rounded character. And I find that to be a thing that makes sense to me. And it's not dwelled on, it's not overly glamorized, it's not like, it doesn't turn the book into some sort of weird torture porn or something. It just is this unfortunate thing that happens, this crime that is visited on somebody right before these events that color their actions and thoughts throughout the events of the book, which I thought worked. And they worked in a way that didn't bother me. So, I mean, in a way, this is a testament to the fact that that kind of thing isn't a thing I speak out against wholesale, because I don't think that this didn't trivialize it. It didn't, and I guess that's the thing that really bothers me, is if you confine it to just being a plot point, to just be like, yeah, like, this is the horrible bad guy just likes to do this blah blah blah, and then you never hear about the characters again. But in this case, you get a real kind of string of consequences and events based around it that are important to the novel, and you kind of feel the gravity of the violation and the crime. And it wasn't taken lightly. It was done to kind of show, how this is affecting this character that you're going to get to know. I'm assuming this character stays a main character through all 3 books. And, like I said, so it didn't strike me the way it often strikes me, where somebody's just like, women are write-off characters, like, let's abuse one to get a bad guy, make a bad guy more bad. Like, that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is, this is how it affects a character. Like, let's deal with that. Let's explore it. So, I mean, the event itself is very brief, but the repercussions happen throughout the entire novel, mainly in the character's head and their actions. So, it's just the thing I want to talk about, because it's an unusual case for me that I don't go like, this is ridiculous. Because I thought it was, when it first happened, I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then as I read the book, I realized that, point made. Right? Like, point well made. That, like, if what you're going to do is follow the victim and show them living in the aftermath of kind of this crime, okay, then, all right, like, pay the price for the thing that you've inserted in your novel. And Robert Sawyer does that well, I thought. I did. So, but it needs to be said, because it's a thing I harp on a lot. So yeah, so this is Hominids, the first book in the Neanderthal Parallax. And it was a quick read. It was only, it was 440 pages, but it didn't feel like that. It went by really fast. And it was a lot of fun. You explored an interesting world in here. I like what Robert Sawyer did. So yeah, I would suggest this. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.